everyone, I'm Jessica Stutzman and welcome back to the Millcreek Government Channel. Motor vehicle crashes are one of the leading cause of death and injury for children. Car seats and booster seats have been shown to greatly reduce that risk in comparison to children wearing a seatbelt alone. With us today to discuss the importance of both car seats and seatbelts is Trooper Cindy Schick, Community Service Officer for the Pennsylvania State Police. Cindy, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
This is a really important topic to me. I do have a 10-month-old baby, and so I was actually really excited to have you on the show today. And I was just telling you before the show that I get a lot of questions from other moms. We always share, the mom forum, the mom community, topics that we have going, and how do I install my car seat? Do I do it right? Where do I get it checked out? So that's why I felt like it was so important to have you on the show today. So seatbelts and car seats are really essential in keeping not only babies and children safe, but adults safe. How do they really work, and how are they keeping us safe?
Obviously, they protect them if they're in a crash. The parents or the grandparents, whoever's driving the children, are in a crash. That seat's going to protect them. Just like us, we're supposed to wear our seatbelts. It's a law in Pennsylvania to wear a seatbelt. It's a law to make sure you have your child in the proper safety seat, the car seat, which would be the 5-point harness, or the booster seat, just depending on their age.
Okay, and what does the 5-point harness mean?
5-point harness is for a child from birth up to 4 years. So when they hit 4, they can move to the booster seat, but if they're a small child, we recommend to keep them in that 5-point harness as long as you can until they outgrow that seat.
Okay.
So what that does, it will buckle up over their shoulders, and then it will buckle between their legs as well, and it all snaps together to that 5-point.
Okay, and then it reduces the impact of that crash.
It does, as long as the seat's put in and installed properly. That's the key thing. So if it's not installed properly and it's not snapped together properly on the child, then it's basically not going to work.
Okay, so it's ineffective, and it's just so important to have this installed properly and have it checked. And you mentioned by law, children and adults are required to wear seatbelts, and children are required to be in car seats.
That's correct.
Okay, and what are the penalties if you were to catch somebody not doing this?
A seatbelt violation in Pennsylvania is secondary. So what that means, you would have to be stopped for something else first. So for example, maybe speeding or an expired registration on your vehicle. But there has to be an initial violation, which we call it the primary violation. And then if the officer sees that you don't have your seatbelt on, or someone in that vehicle does not have a seatbelt on, or properly seated in a car seat, then you can be cited for that section as well.
Okay, and what are the fines for not wearing your seatbelt?
There's a $25 fine, and then there's also cost and fees, but there is a little bit extra to that. With the car seats, that's a primary violation. So if your child is not in a seat, then they can stop you for that.
Okay. That's really, really good to hear, or good to know, because I've had a lot of people, and laws definitely have changed over the years, and I've had a lot of people say to me when we were bringing our baby home from the hospital, oh, well, you know what, that wasn't a requirement. We just had our baby sitting on our laps and we drove home. And so, now the hospitals, they come out and they check, they make sure you have a car seat. So are there any other requirements, and maybe I just listed all of them, but are there any other requirements, again, for transporting children, that parents have evolved, and parents should make sure that they do?
Just to be careful too, I'm going to touch base on the airbags. So some vehicles, obviously they have no other option than to put them in front of that airbag.
Oh, okay.
For example, a single cab truck. So if that's your only option for transportation, we recommend that you turn that airbag off, obviously, because that force from the airbag could cause injury to that child.
Oh, that's a good point.
We're not telling you can't use that vehicle, but we recommend if you have a different vehicle, it is safer, obviously, to keep them away from the airbag.
Yeah, and what we were told too was to check the instruction manual of your vehicle. It tells you where the safest seat is in the car. So the one thing, the first thing I want to touch on are the rear-facing child seats. What are typically, and I'm sure every make and model is different, what are typically maybe the height requirements or weight requirements for the rear-facing seat?
Well, in Pennsylvania now, a child must stay rear-facing till they're 2, or they outgrow the height and weight for that seat.
Okay.
So Initially, obviously, when you bring a baby home, they're in that infant carrier usually, so
Right.
that they have the base. You don't have to have the base as long as it's installed properly, but if you have a brand new seat, it's going to come with that base. So they would be rear facing in that seat, and usually that seat's up to 30 pounds. And when you put that baby in there, and as the baby's growing, you can measure them by where their head is at on that car seat. So we're asking if the head's over the car seat, obviously the baby is way too big for it. So you have an inch leadway. So if you can basically just use the part of your finger as a guide, and if you have that amount of space, then that seat's okay.
Okay.
But once they outgrow, obviously height and also the weight, you need to buy a new seat.
Buy a new car seat. And then I was going to say, we've already bumped up into that next category. We're still rear facing, but we've bumped up after that, that infant car seat. And why are infants and younger children required to be in a rear facing seat versus a forward facing seat?
There's just studies out there that show that it's safer. Some parents will ask, well, I don't believe that it is, or say that I don't believe it is because my child's legs are too long and they seem to be squished against the seat. Well, they've done studies to see, is that really going to hurt them in the long run? And it's no. But if they're in a crash and they don't have that support from being rear facing, that could hurt them.
Okay.
So it's what happens when they're rear facing, that child is being cradled in that car seat, because you have to have that angle, obviously. If you read your manual, they require you to have it set at an angle. So that cradles the baby or the child if you are in a crash or you have impact to your vehicle.
And so, say you're a new mom and you're looking for car seats, and of course there's all the the shopping ratings out there, 5 stars or this or that. What do you look for in purchasing a safe car seat for a child?
I tell parents you can spend as low as $50 or whatever the cheapest one is, or you can go to the extreme and probably get one for $1,000. So it kind of compares to you have a Chevy Cobalt and then you have an Escalade. So it's the parents' decision on what seat they want to buy, because every seat on a store shelf has to be certified, has to go through testing to be put on the shelf. So it's safe. It's just how extreme do you want to go on a car seat.
Okay.
Some of them have a little bit more padding, a little bit more cushion. It might be a little bit more comfortable for the child. So as long as you buy one from a store, you're okay.
Right.
We don't recommend that you get used car seats because you don't know the history of that car seat.
Right.
And we definitely don't recommend that you buy them from a yard sale because you don't know the history of that car seat.
Yeah.
Once that car seat's involved in a crash, we ask you to replace it. And sometimes insurance companies will buy a new seat for that vehicle.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I mean, there's a lot of things I think you can buy from yard sales for your children, like used toys or maybe a pack and play or something like that. But this is a safety measure, and this is really involving their life. You want to make sure that you're not getting a car seat that's already been compromised.
There's no, we don't really go off height and weight.
Okay.
It's just as long as they fit in that seat. But once they turn 2, you're allowed to flip them around to forward facing.
Okay.
You don't have to, like I mentioned earlier. If you want to keep them rear facing, you can longer, as long as they fit in that seat. But once you turn them around, it changes a little bit where the belt passes through and where you would buckle them into your car. So you have to make sure you read that manual if someone else is not installing that, a car seat tech's not installing that seat.
Okay.
Make sure you read that manual so you know the proper belt pass.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Reading the manual is super important. And tell me about, should we register our car seat? It usually comes with like a postcard or something like that. Should parents register their car seat as well if there's any recalls?
I always recommend that they register those car seats. Send that little card in as soon as you get the seat, because if you don't, you're going to forget about it.
Yeah.
So you just drop it in the mail, and then if there is a recall, like you just mentioned, they will call and contact you.
Okay, great. And again, what features should you look for? Is there a difference between a rear-facing car seat and a forward-facing car seat, or do you buy them rear-facing and then they flip forward?
Some of them will flip forward, and then some of them are just rear-facing only, which would be your infant carrier one, and some of them are just forward-facing only, which it explains that on the box when you're buying that, so it's very easy to determine which one you want.
Okay.
Obviously, you can save yourself some money if you buy the one that goes both ways and then transitions into a booster seat, but obviously you're getting a little bit fancy, and those ones cost a little bit more.
Right. We did run into that issue a little while ago when we had a family member who wanted to buy a car seat, and she had to use ours actually instead because she accidentally bought a forward-facing car seat instead of the rear-facing car seat. So, it is important to, read on which one you're getting and make sure it's not the wrong one for, like you said, for your age group. So, what are the belt positioning booster seats?
There's two types of booster seats. You have the one booster seat that does not have the back. So it's a backless booster seat, and then you have the one that does have the back on it. So either one of them is fine, as long as your child, once you put them in that booster seat, has a headrest and has some type of head support. So if you do not have a headrest in that back seat, then obviously you want that high back booster where they have something that their head's against.
Okay. And how long should children wear, or should they use booster seats?
The law says until they turn 8, but it's parental discretion after that. If you have a small child, keep them in that booster seat as long as possible.
Yeah.
Because if that seatbelt doesn't lay correctly across them without the booster seat, then obviously it's not going to be as effective.
Right. And we were talking about, I'm a very short person. I know some people have said I look tall just being on TV, but I'm a really short person. I've always been very short, and I think I was in a booster seat until I was at least 10. I would beg my mom, like, let me out of this. But yeah, so until 8 years old is the age limit for that.
Until they turn 8.
Okay. And seatbelt safety in general, can you touch on how important this is, and again, just, what are the consequences if you don't wear a seatbelt?
The law states that all people in the front seat have to wear a seatbelt, regardless of your age. Adults that are in the rear seats, if they're 18 or older, they aren't required to wear a seatbelt, but obviously a seatbelt's going to save a life if you're in a crash or possible injury. So any child under, 17 and under would have to wear a seatbelt or be in a car seat or booster seat. So when a young driver is driving other kids around, they also have to be in the seatbelts, obviously, in the booster seats and the car seats. And it's just very important that parents stress that with their children when they're driving, because habits created at a young age obviously will carry on into their adult life.
Absolutely. And parents are the best role models for their kids. So to practice, you want to make your child wear a seatbelt, the parents should practice that as well.
And also to add to that is wear the seatbelt properly. I know you see some people that will tuck it behind them or they'll tuck it underneath their arm. That's not the proper way to wear a seatbelt. Right. So you have to wear it properly, obviously, for it to work correctly.
And that's a good point. I was going to say, if you don't have it on right, it's not going to function the way it's supposed to.
Correct.
We were talking about, car seats in the event of a crash, but I also noticed car seats have an expiration date. Why is that?
They do. It's usually 6 years, and they have an expiration date because that material inside starts to break down over time. So just like anything else, it starts to wear out. You can't see it, so you may not realize that it's happening, but when that expiration date hits, we ask you to get rid of it, and then to get a new seat. If you are going to throw a seat away, we recommend that you cut the straps so nobody else can take it and use it.
Oh, I like that tip a lot, and because like you said, if you put it curbside, what's to prevent somebody else from taking it and using it? But so it does have an expiration date, usually about 6 years, and from what I understood as well was that these car seats are really made out of plastic. So again, the materials start to degrade over time and then make them a little more ineffective than what they used to be. So is there somewhere we can get our car seats inspected? Because obviously I want my daughter to drive around in the safest car seat that we can afford, but also everything in proper position. So where can we get stuff inspected?
All the state police stations within Troop E have at least one tech at their station. So what Troop E consists of: Franklin, Warren, Harbor Creek Barracks or Lawrence Park, Girard, and then also Corey. So any of those barracks, they do have a tech there who's been trained in installing the car seats, which I am a certified technician as well. But you would schedule an appointment with those stations, and then you can go in and they will assist you on putting that seat in, or just to check to make sure that you have it in properly.
Yeah, and you've been certified for quite some time, is that right?
Yeah, I've been certified for 6 years. 6 years,
that's fantastic. What do you look for when you're doing these certifications?
My job as a car seat tech isn't to criticize the parents, it's to help them learn and to make sure that child's safe. So I want to make sure that seat's in snug, and then that they have it installed obviously properly with the belt pass. And then also I explain to them how those straps should fit on their child, where the chest plate should fit on the child. And then once they move to the booster seat, how that seat belt should lay on the child. And then once they transition from the booster seat to just the seat belt, how that child should sit in the seat. So just the safety of the child is what is important to me, and then obviously sharing that with the parents.
Yeah, and folks, I want to give a little teaser here. Please stay tuned to the very, very end. We're going to go outside and look at my car seat. I've never had it inspected, so please take it easy on me. Like you said, please don't criticize or judge. We did our very best, and I appreciate any suggestions or you fixing anything we have. But we want you to see what it actually looks like for Trooper Schick to inspect and check out a car seat and what you look for. What are the common mistakes that you see, or what is when you go out there and look at my car seat, what do you think you're going to find?
Majority of the seats are not in tight enough. So what we look for when we wiggle that car seat is an inch or less movement where the belt passes through that car seat. So the back part of it might move a little bit more if it's rear facing, which is fine. We're just looking at the movement where the belt passes. We look at the straps. If they have the child with them, are they loose? A lot of times the straps are too loose. If I can pinch that material on that strap, it's too loose and that needs to be snug.
Okay.
It's not going to hurt the child. We just want that to fit snugly because it's not going to work properly if it's not.
Right.
And then another thing that we see a lot is the chest plate. The chest plate won't be up high enough. It's pushed down usually. Sometimes they'll put those cute little shoulder protectors on there,
Yes.
and that has a tendency to push that plate down.
Oh, okay.
So once that plate's pushed down, then that could cause the child to actually be shot out of that car seat if they are in a crash.
Okay, and like you said, maybe the child feels like it's pinching them or it's uncomfortable, but better they be safe than wear it improperly and then have something happen to them, I think. So better they're a little uncomfortable for a short car ride. And we did take the shoulder pads off because, like you said, I couldn't get that chest plate up high enough on my daughter, so I tossed them off into the side in case we ever need them, but like you said, I just couldn't get it up high enough. So what should we do if our car seat is involved in an accident?
Obviously, if you can report it to your insurance company to get a new seat, you can do that, but we ask that you replace it. You're not required to replace it, but we want you to look out for the safety of your child because those pieces underneath that cover that you can't see could have been cracked or broken down a little bit, and it may prevent it from working properly.
Okay, and by car accident, do you mean 45 or 75 miles an hour, or do you mean 5 miles an hour? What kind of car accident are we talking about?
I recommend any type of impact, just to get it replaced, just to be safe, because you never know.
Right. That's good to know. And then does that accident apply to when the child's actually in the car seat, or perhaps you're in an accident and the child's not with you and the car seat's still in the car?
No matter what, if that seat's in that car, I recommend just having it replaced.
Okay, perfect. It's just such good information to know. And when should children be allowed, or when should parents allow children to start riding in the front seat?
There's not a law on an age in Pennsylvania. So what I tell parents, it's whenever you feel comfortable and whenever you believe that your child's old enough to sit in that front seat. Once again, you got to remember that airbag's there.
Right.
So if that airbag goes off and hits your child, that could cause some damage. Obviously, it hurts when adults get hit by that, and children are a lot smaller. So it's parental discretion. I tell my son he's not sitting in this front seat till he's 18. So.
18? Okay, well, so it'll be a while for my little girl, too. And what should parents do in the event of traveling? My husband and I have been talking about, if we take a trip and we get on an airplane with her, what do we do when we're trying to get from the airport to the hotel? What tips do you have for traveling?
I know people will take the car seats with them, booster seats with them, and they check them on the airplane. Or if you are renting a car, once you arrive to your destination, I've noticed too that the car rental places will have car seats there that you can use.
I actually didn't know that. I'm so glad you said that, because I was thinking, I'm never going to be able to travel again while we have a child in a car seat. So thank you so much. Before we go outside, I just wanted to see, are there any, last really impression thoughts that you wanted to leave our viewers with on car seats, booster seats, or seat belts?
Just take the extra time and make sure that they're installed properly. If your child's not in a seat, make sure that they are in a seat if they're in that age bracket. And then if you are confused or have some concerns, call one of the stations and we will assist you.
And what's your contact information? If our viewers have any questions for you or want to set up the car seat installation, how can people get a hold of you?
My contact, I'm out of the Erie Barracks, which is right in Lawrence Park, and the number there is 814-898-1641, and that's the easiest way to get in touch, and then we can set up appointment that way.
Okay.
If there's another station that's closer, still call me and I can assist you on that number.
Okay, great. Well, I'm so appreciative of, like I said, all this great information. I don't know that we touched on it. The installation, is there a fee for that or is it free?
It's free, but we
Okay.
just ask that you call and set up an appointment so somebody is there
Yeah.
that's certified.
Wonderful. So it is free. Folks, I want you to stay tuned for our car seat installation. Again, we're just going to be checking out my car seat in the parking lot here. So we're just like an average family. I've never had my car seat looked at before, so I am sure we might be making some of the same mistakes that you might be making at home. So again, the car seat installation at the Pennsylvania State Police Barracks, that is free. But again, please just really take note of what we're showing you today and to make sure that your children are safely fastened into their seatbelts and into their car seats. Okay, so stay tuned and we're gonna have a great demonstration for you.
Okay, I'm just going to go over a few tips on how to install a car seat properly. So if you would come into one of our stations to have your car seat looked at, things that I would look for is to make sure that when this seat is buckled in, that there's an inch or less of movement at the belt pass. The belt pass, because it's rear facing, is going to be underneath the child's the butt area. And she's got the latch system used in her vehicle, which is great, but you can also use the seat belt if you prefer. You have to pick one. You're not supposed to use either one or both of them. It's either or because they'll start working against each other. So once that's properly installed there, next thing I'm going to look for is the straps here. So once this is buckled on the child, I'm going to look at this breastplate here, and it needs to be at the nipple line of the child. If it's pushed down low, that child could fall out of that seat if you were in some type of a crash. She mentioned earlier that she had these shoulder pads on there. She took them off prior to me looking at the seat because of that. So it was pushing that chest plate down, and it wasn't safely, the seat wasn't safe for the child at that point. So when you buckle the straps down between the child's leg, you don't want a lot of extra space in there. If you do have a gap in between that strap and the child, we recommend that you put a receiving blanket in there. You just roll that up and you can wrap that around to close that gap if you can't adjust it to one of the smaller positions. When these straps are all buckled, you want to make sure the shoulder straps are snug on the child's shoulder. If you can pinch any of that material, that seat is, or those straps are too loose. So then how you would tighten those, every seat has a strap near the base that you would just pull, and that will tighten those straps up on the shoulder. Another thing to look at, you want the proper angle for a car seat. Rear facing, they're looking for that 45-degree angle. Every car seat has some type of angle indicator on there. Hers is actually on the other side. It's the bubble system where the bubble has to be in between two lines. Hers has the proper angle, which is good. And the reason for that angle is because when they're rear facing, obviously the children are smaller, so they might not have that strength in their neck to hold their head up yet. So by having that angle, they can properly hold their head up. Up here, when their head is resting inside the seat, once again, if there's too much space, you can take that receiving blanket and close that gap. One thing I am going to gig her on is she has a mirror in here. It's not against the law to have these mirrors. We just recommend that anything that's not with the seat, you don't put on the seat or in the vehicle, because you have to think that this mirror can now become a projectile if she's in a crash. So if that would loosen up and come off of there and she's traveling 55 miles an hour following the speed limit, and that mirror is also going to travel 55 miles an hour. So that could come off and strike that child, or even strike mom in the back of the head if she's driving. So that's not illegal to have it, we just don't recommend them. So this seat right now is installed properly. If she wanted to adjust this seat, every seat's different, her adjustments in here is really simple. A lever that pulls it will pull her seat up. So when her child grows, and also if she turns this seat around, she can move that up to fit the child. Some people will have this on their seat, which is the tether system. In a rear-facing seat, we do not use the tether system because there's nothing to tether that seat to. So when she turns this seat around, this tether system will hook up somewhere in the back of her vehicle. You have to tighten that strap up again, and it's kind of like the latch system, how you tighten those side straps. When she turns this around, once again, she can use the seatbelt or she can use the latch system. She cannot use both. So if she chooses to use the seatbelt, it's going to obviously go through this passing once it's turned around. She chooses to use the latch when it's forward facing, it goes through this same one through the back.
Folks, thanks so much for staying tuned as we did our outside demonstration of the police inspection of the car seat. Luckily, Trooper Schick said that I passed with flying colors, but she did point out that the mirror could be a hazard. So while it's not against the law, it could be a hazard in case of an accident. So again, I wanted to thank you for tuning into our show today, and we want to thank Trooper Cindy Schick for joining us. Everything she provided, again, was so beneficial to your child's safety and to their health. So if you have any questions, we did provide her contact information and her phone number for you to set up your very own car seat installation inspection for your child and for your car. So please make sure to do so that all of the children are safe and healthy and happy on the road. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day.